So we get a bit of variety. Last week it was a really hot day, and today it's a really rainy, cold day. But probably both conditions are conditions where people feel like, I could stay at home, don't want to come out. So very nice of you to come. One of the important things with this practice, or with practice in general, what the word already implies, I think, is that we repeat, that we continuously do something, that we train ourselves in these kind of things, because then they actually have an impact on our minds and on our lives, and that's what it's all about. So for the people who were here last week, probably most of you, I've shared some experiences from me being in Thailand. And I haven't run out of experiences yet, so I have a few more things to share with you. But I want to start with a quote by Ajahn Chah. That's the teacher I mentioned. He is kind of one of the founders of the Thai tradition that we are in as monastics. And he was explaining how we train our bodies and how we train our minds. Obviously, he is a mind trainer and not a body trainer, but he wanted just to kind of explain a little bit how these things are related with each other, but how they're actually different. So training also means strengthening. So if you want to train and strengthen your body, energize your body, that's when you need to exercise it. So you need to move it, you need to massage it, you need to basically look after it. But it has to do with exercise, it has to do with activity, it has to do with movement, because that's what's required for this body of ours, for the muscles and for the tendons and for the bones even. So is that the same with the mind? No, it's not the same with the mind. I understand that some people might be thinking that you have to exercise your mind, and obviously there is, some areas where we want to do that because we have like a physical component in our bodies which interacts with our minds, which is the brain. So we do, sudokus, or we do engage in certain things, we do have interests and all these kind of things. But when we as Buddhist monastics talk about the mind, we talk about something quite different. And to exercise that mind, to train that mind, to strengthen that mind, we actually have to keep it still. So there is a huge difference there. One of the things gets strengthened and exercised through movement, through doing stuff. Good evening. And the other one gets strength and energy through rest, through stopping, through settling things. But these two things, they also interact with each other. That's very important to understand. And there is another kind of saying that was created, or actually a title that was created when one of the monks wrote a biography about Ajahn Chah, where that quote comes from. And the book was called Stillness Flowing. And that's where you bring those components together, where you have a still, calm, settled, wise mind that doesn't move all over the place, but it is active within the body, it's together with an active body. Maybe I should say it that way, because we don't always have an environment like this where we meditate together and we are secluded and we have an environment which is already still, and that can help the mind to be still and settle. But then we get off the chair, we get off the meditation cushion, we get back into the activity of life. And that's where it is so important that we keep that stillness, that we keep that settledness, that we keep that wisdom that we have gained through meditation going. And another thing that Ajahn Chah mentioned, it's kind of like a knife. Our mind is like a sharp knife. But we have to make sure that we actually use it appropriately. So if you take a sharp knife and you use it for anything really, you start cutting rocks, you start cutting bricks, you start cutting soil and grass, what happens to that knife? It becomes blunt. And that's the same thing with the mind. And that's what the training is about in the monasteries that I visited in Thailand, and also in the monasteries in Australia, of course. But there, the training just really emphasized that for me. So the first talk I gave was called "Doing It is Easy, ... And now we're doing ... Thinking about it is the hard part. So the thinking, so sending the mind out, getting caught up, getting carried away by thinking which is not on task, which is not, which doesn't lead to the purpose that we're trying to achieve, which basically blunts our knife, is the problem. And how can we kind of learn skillful ways to deal with this? And that brings me back to the experiences I had in the monasteries when I was in Thailand. So we have different ways of doing work. The work itself might be fairly similar, but the approach we have to it might be very, very different. And I'm now going to talk about the West and the East, or the Western mind and the Asian mind. So please don't see this as a stereotype. There is Western minds in Asia, and there is Asian minds in the West. But it's good to kind of understand different approaches and how they work and how they don't work. So when I came to the monasteries in Thailand, I come from a Western upbringing. And the Western upbringing, as far as I understand it, actually has its benefits, but also its drawbacks or its dangers, so to speak. And one of the ways that we are taught as Westerners is to have a critical mind, to have critical faculties in order to be effective, in order to do the job in the best way. But sometimes that approach forgets a little bit about the surroundings, forgets a little bit about the group, forgets a little bit about that we are part of a bigger thing. So we become very individualistic, or we become very kind of like, what can I get out of this? How can we do it quick and fast and efficient? And the East, or Asia, or the monasteries where I was at, had a very, very different kind of approach to this. And when you come with a Western mind, you kind of sometimes think, oh, why can't we be more efficient? Or why can't we optimize it? Or why can't we just do it differently, or plan a little bit more, or things like that? So one of the experiences was in the morning when we had our meal, the teacher in that place came and was saying something in Thai, which I couldn't understand, but with the little English he had, he was saying, office, office, work, 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 work. And I was like, okay, is this kind of like a teaching, or is this whatever? So I had to ask the other monks what's going on, and they were telling me, no. It means that there is some work at the office for everybody. And everybody means everybody. So even though you have a kind of hierarchical structure, and you have some senior monks and some middle monks and some junior monks, usually when something like that happens, it means the group. It means everybody who is basically available. So they said, okay, 9:30 or 10 o'clock, come up to the office. So we came up to the office, and people were already working. So I was saying last time that that it's in the jungle, that there is a lot of leaves falling all the time. So the roof was full of leaves. And the job was to, get the leaves off the roof and just clean the whole area. And when I came there with Bhante Chunda, they were actually already cleaning. So I was trying to find out what's going on and what I should be doing. And I was kind of surprised a little bit that I didn't really get any instructions or so much, or there wasn't a work meeting, or there wasn't someone in charge who told you we're doing this and it would be helpful if you could do that, because that kind of fits into the whole thing. And they're just like, oh yeah, there's rags over there and there's brooms over there, and these guys are doing this and those guys are doing that, and just kind of have a look around and help out. And of course, I got a broom and started working, but also was observing at the same time a little bit how this all works. And then they were getting leaves off the roof, and they came all down, and people were sweeping them away. And then they came more leaves, and again, the kind of Western mind was like, why can't you just get all the leaves off first, and then you sweep, and then this and that? But when I spoke to another monk in the second monastery that we visited, it kind of started to make a little bit more sense. So he said that in Asia, or in this kind of way of approaching something, you work as a swarm. You don't work as an individual. So it's like an ant colony, or it's like a flock of birds, or a shoal of fish. So what you do if you're in that situation as that animal, I assume, I'm not a fish, so I don't know, but they want to stay in the group. There is strength in numbers. There is safety in numbers. There is an awareness, especially like with the birds. It's amazing, sometimes you see on some nature documentaries how those swarms move around, but how they kind of stay together. If they don't stay together, then they become vulnerable, and then a predator can come and eat them or hunt them. So their job is to be aware what's happening around them, what the other birds are doing, and to kind of mimic the same movements and to kind of flow with the whole group. And that's quite an interesting way of looking at things. So you don't just get a job and you have an aim and you're assigned this and you just kind of put your blinders on and you focus and you do it really hard and you do it really well. You actually see what's going on around you, and you adapt and you adjust. And I mean, one of the other things that I mentioned last week as well is the cleaning. So there's certain cleaning jobs and they're done again and again and again. And sometimes, you just go and clean it, even though it was cleaned. And I didn't really think about it so much, but I'm trying to say that we shouldn't be thinking, but to have the awareness, to have the knowledge, to have the wisdom, to maybe go and check how the thing actually looks like. Is it dusty? I mean, with the leaves and stuff, it's very easy because they keep falling all the time. If there is leaves, you have to sweep them. But if you're dusting stuff or mopping stuff, and it happens 2 or 3 times a day, you also need a little bit of kind of wisdom and understanding to deal with that situation. So that was very, very interesting. And that shows us again that when we just go with the flow of how that group is operating, then we don't create any resistance. And then we have that stillness and we can flow with the process. It might take a little bit longer. It might not be as efficient as we want it to be, but it actually works. And there is other kind of values that are important. It's in the West, very often we are very skeptic, so we don't really have trust or faith. In Asia, trust and faith is usually very strong, so if we are told something or if we see that the group is doing something, we don't question so much. We just kind of give ourselves into it. We kind of surrender into this kind of process. We also don't have this kind of opposition where we think, oh, I know better, and we start arguing or we start trying to change things around. So we see that harmony is more important. We see that respect is more important. And especially in the Asian cultures, I have learned and seen that respect is also given to the elders, is given to the teachers, is given to the senior monks. And Now, if we look at this in a Western way, we might go like, oh, but they can abuse the power, or they can kind of, do with this whatever they want, and I have to stand up for myself, and these kind of things. And I can understand that. But if you have an elder you really trust, if you have a person that you feel wants the best for you, wants the best for the group, wants a good outcome, then you can trust, then you can surrender, then you can give yourself to that process. So these things are actually quite nice to think about. And it reminds me, it's more of like an ecosystem, or it's more like an organism, or it's more like a body, and you think about the whole thing globally rather than focusing in on one specific part. And as we know, with health, for example, I was just reflecting myself about how cancer operates. So a cancer cell is one little piece in the body which grows too fast and which grabs all the resources and then eventually kills the host. And very often that can be one danger of how we approach things, how we think about things. We want to be an individual. We want to, get the most out of it for us. We want to be successful. We want to, have a lot of things, be happy. But we forget that there is a bigger system that we are part of, and that there is resources we should really kind of share together. So one other thing that I mentioned last week as well is the alms round. And that's when we go into the village with our bowl to receive food, rice mainly, but also other food. And that is done barefoot. And that's something Western feet are not used to. So when the Westerners came to Thailand, they would have bruises and cuts and sprains and all sorts. And Ajahn Chah would say that they have stupid feet. It's a lovely way of putting it, because as a Westerner, we would probably, take this as you are stupid, you don't know what you're doing. But he said, you have stupid feet. So it's like a little child which doesn't have a lot of wisdom, which doesn't have a lot of experience, and doesn't know what to do, doesn't know when to do it and why to do it, what the purpose is of certain kind of things. So there is nothing wrong with the child, but there is something wrong or unskillful with the training, with the perception, with the understanding of the task and the body that we are in that performs that task. So if we understand and have an awareness of what our feet are like, how they feel, what the terrain is we are walking on, then we can become smart about that. Then our feet can become smart. And that applies to all the other things as well. So if we have a task to perform and the mind starts going ruminating and thinking so many things and wasting all the energy, making the knife blunt, then we basically have a stupid brain. But I would say we can even take it away from the brain and not blame the brain, and again say we have a stupid way of approaching the task. We are unskillful. We're unwise about that whole situation. How to apply our minds skillfully, kindly, with respect, and in a way which, kind of like harmonizes everything, makes it smooth, so that it flows, but that there isn't this excitement, this getting, reactive happening in the mind. So that's the stillness flowing again. So it's the mind which is still settled, calm, but there is still some movement happening at the same time. And that's actually what we are trying to achieve with all this training. And that's what we want to take into our day-to-day lives with us. So let's see if that covers what I was thinking about for today. Yeah, maybe just to mention, so the body moves and the mind is still, the mind is resting, but it's still responsive. But it's a response without that resistance, without getting caught up in reactivity. And with stilling the mind, if the mind is all over the place, if there is a lot of objects, if there is a lot of emotions, a lot of things for the mind to do, then it can't gather the strength, then it can't become sharp, then it can't develop samadhi, which is basically a settledness of the mind, and it can't have wisdom. So what we need is one object, and one simple object, and staying with that object for a longer period of time. And that's what we practice in meditation. And that's what we take in today life with us. But when we practice in day-to-day life, then of course the objects are changing. But we try to stay with the changing objects and with the simplicity of them. Or we try to find something which is there in the background for a longer period of time, like the body, the awareness, the feelings in the body, maybe also the breathing, maybe an attitude or a mind state that we are kind of radiating into the world, or the space that we are creating, where we're coming from. That can be another kind of anchor or another object. But the important thing is that it's not elaborate, that it is simple, that it is easy, and that it brings up joy and energy to be able to stay with it. So that's that. Oh yes, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. So when you are in an environment where you don't have so much time for yourself and you have many tasks to perform, and I'm sure that's something you will which will happen to you as well in when you're at work and you have a couple of tasks to perform, and you might have a bit of resistance and you don't have much time to just kind of chill, or you don't have that ability yet. Then the important part is that we learn to generate some happiness within our own heart, to create some happiness within our own heart. And then once we have created that, we also have to make sure that people don't mess with it, that people don't steal it off us. And that's one thing that we can learn when we are in an environment that is maybe a little bit difficult, to take the mind away from the negativity, from the fault finding that can be created, that zaps the energy, and go into a simple object, as I described, or into an attitude, into a mind state, which brings up joy and energy as well, and then maintaining that happiness, maintaining that joy. So even if people come and tell us things, or if people ask us to do certain jobs, how can we not let those jobs take away the stability of our mind, take away the happiness that we have inside? Because the thing is, even if people say stuff, it can only take away our happiness if we don't respond in a kind and in a wise way. If we basically take some of that negativity, if it might be negativity coming at us, we take it in, we approve of it, and we basically come out of our shelter and interact with whatever people are saying. And then that kind of destroys the peace, destroys the settledness, destroys the balance within ourselves. Oh yes, and then one other thing that I wanted to mention about the swarms. When I talked about the swarms, or actually thought about the swarms, I thought of two specific examples. So when we have to perform a task and we are the person in charge, we have a responsibility, and we feel that we have to be the person where the buck stops, and we have to be the person who deals with everything. Now, in that kind of mindset, yes, that's how it works. But now, when you think of a group, there is not one individual who can't be replaced and who is the boss. They're all interacting with each other. So if you have birds flying, for thousands of kilometers, when they're migrating from one place to another place, they fly in this kind of V shape. And they fly in the V shape because the first bird in the front gets all the flack. It's kind of the leader of the group. And then all the other birds fly in the slipstream of that bird in the front. But now the crucial part is that when that bird in front gets tired, he flies back into the flock and another bird comes to the front. And that's what we have to learn. If we have a strong sense of self, if we have a strong ego, if we identify with ourselves, with our bodies, with our thoughts, with our job, with our position, then we don't want to give up that space. We don't want to give up that place, and we burn ourselves out. The other beautiful example are the emperor penguins on Antarctica. So I had to do a little bit of research. I did remember it, but I wanted to get it right. So over there, it's cold, dark in winter. But because it's on the pole, it's actually 6 months of the year, it's basically winter. And for, 2 months of the year, the sun doesn't even rise above the horizon. It gets up to minus 60 degrees Celsius. And there is wind gusts up to 200 kilometers an hour. So now how do those penguins survive? You might have heard or seen even. They huddle up. They're in a group. But now again, that group moves. Because the cold air and the wind, the chill factor, make things even colder. So when you have a time lapse of what is happening there, you have the penguins on the outside that are taking all the cold and protecting the group, but then they're moving into the group again, and other penguins are moving out, and they get the warmth from the group from the inside. And once they have enough power, enough strength, and that's what we do with our practice, when we have enough stillness, enough wisdom, enough groundedness, enough balance, we go out, we perform, we help other people, we do stuff, but then we have to come back. We have to feel what's going on in our bodies. If we have enough heat, if we have enough energy, if we have enough power to actually do what we need to do, and then be wise and be humble and go back into the group, go back into the family, go back into our practice, go back into the society, whatever it is. So that way we don't exploit other people and we don't exploit ourselves. We don't exploit our minds. We don't exploit the resources of our bodies. So that kind of balances everything out really nicely. Okay, so that's a few thoughts I wanted to share for tonight. How are we feeling with the cold at the moment? Are we okay? Or do we want to... It's all good? Yep. All right. Very good. So let's get ready for meditation. There is one person who hasn't been here before. So usually we meditate for about half an hour. It's a guided meditation. So you will get guidance from me. So you can just listen and go along. It's a little bit one of my teachers. I would usually say it's like a busy road. And a little kid who learns how to go to kindy. So it might be a bit scary because there's so many, reckless thoughts just driving like fast cars on the road. But if you have a teacher or if you have some guidance, like you have your parent who shows you, where you cross the road and what you have to do, and you can even take their hand and they lead you along. So that's the idea of a guided meditation. But when you practice by yourself, then you have to be your own teacher. And your own teacher has to have two qualities. He has to, or she has to, be wise, but also kind. So please be that for yourself in this process as well. So whatever arises, don't get destabilized too quickly, don't get irritated or angry, or if something good happens, don't rush towards it. Just stay put, watch, observe, be wise about it, as much wisdom as you can muster, and then also be kind. So you protect that little child. You protect that kind of practitioner in the process of meditation. All right, so find a comfortable position, because in meditation, again, we try to simplify things. So you try to find a way to sit that is simple and easy and basically undisturbing, uneventful. Well, basically boring. Because you don't want to have your attention on the body too much. The body is one of the things that we learn to let go in meditation. And as you are settling into your body, you can also gently close your eyes if you haven't done that already. To draw the attention, which is usually outside, scanning the environment, scanning the body, scanning the emotions, and trying to figure out what needs to be done to protect it, to help it, to gather information. And we don't let that go completely. But at this moment in time, we just want to know what's going on without reacting, without getting invested in it, without going out with the mind. Just watching, just knowing. And as our purpose of meditation is to calm things down, to settle, to relax, how can we achieve that purpose? By listening and understanding, yes. But then also by responding. But it's almost like an automatic response. Like when you're out in the world and you see someone suffering, hopefully when your mind is trained, you will have acceptance, you'll have kindness, you'll have compassion and care, just arising naturally. And that's what we stay with. We don't try to problem solve, to optimize, to make things better. We understand that they will become better if we just let them be. If we hear them out. If we don't interfere or mess with them. If we don't tell them what to do. We just try to create an environment where they can rest, where they can trust, where they can be at ease. And the first object in meditation usually is our body, as it's the most coarse one, the most obvious one. Feeling and understanding what's happening in our face, Understanding if we are overthinking anything connected to the face and creating unnecessary tension, blunting the knife. Can we just feel and be kind? Relaxing the forehead, the eyes, cheeks, the nose, the mouth, the chin, the ears, allowing them to settle. And then tuning in into this simple feeling of relaxation and ease. Feeling, understanding the scalp, the top, the sides, the back of the head. And allowing it to be loose, smooth. Allowing our tongue, our lips, our jaw to rest. Very often when we are afraid, when we think too much, when we worry, that creates tension in our jaws, in our eyes, in our face. Peace is something which grows when we are peaceful, when we are kind, when we care. So as we relax the head, face, the inside of the head, we can also relax our brain. Can't really feel our brain unless we have a headache or something. But when the brain relaxes, when the brain is at ease, when the brain is peaceful, the activity of it lessens. Less thoughts, less emotions, less movement. Don't try to stop things, but just disengage and see if things slow down and settle naturally, bit by bit. And feeling the neck, maybe extending it a little bit, stretching it a little bit, and allowing it to be at ease. And that includes the skin and the muscles all around. The mouth inside and the throat. Allowing things to run smoothly. Allow the air to pass in and out. Allow the saliva to do its thing naturally. And if we need to cough or to swallow, we just do that. Mindfully, calmly, kindly. Going down to our shoulders, relaxing them. Shoulder blades. And extending into our arms, left and right. On the outside and on the inside. Gently, kindly scanning down our arms, through the elbows, to the wrists, into the hands, the fingers, the palms, the backs. Checking in. Seeing if they're at ease, if they're comfortable, if they are at rest. And if there's anything we can do to help them, we can move them, can rearrange them, to find a way to settle, to find a way to be where they don't need our attention. Because they're safe, they're sound, they're happy. Then we can feel our chest, rib cage, front, the side, the back. Allowing the breath to come in and out smoothly, naturally, unhindered. And allowing the chest and the belly to move with the breathing. And let's see if we can let them do the breathing without us telling them what to do. We just accommodate, we listen, we respond, we care. Feeling and understanding what's going on in our lower backs. In the pelvis. The hips, the hip joints. Meeting them in a peaceful, in a respectful manner. Then expanding this friendly attitude to towards all the organs inside the torso, the lungs, the heart, the blood circulation, all the organs connected with digestion, the stomach, colon, the liver, the gallbladder, everything involved with water coming in and going out, the kidneys filtering the blood, taking out the water and the toxins, bringing them out of our bodies. The stomach and the colon, taking all the nutriments, what is useful, and letting go of what is of no use to the organism, to this body of ours. We can learn something from this. Can we do that with the mind as well? Can we take in the nutriments, what is beneficial, what is helpful, what gives us energy, and to let go and discard of what is of no use, what just makes the mind heavy, takes away its flexibility, its agility, its energy. And then the bladder as well, and any other kind of things in there that I might have forgotten that are important. Diaphragm, the spleen, pancreas, all doing their job. Let us make it smooth for them, encouraging and supporting them. And then we can move into our legs, the thighs, the knees, the lower part of the legs, ankles, the feet, the soles, the tops, the toes, and as well here we feel, we understand this whole area, and we relax it from the outside in and from the inside out. Skin, the muscles, the tendons, the bones, the joints, the cartilage. Every little cell is doing its job, working together as a team. Can we be a team player too? Can we join the team? And then we can come back up to our face and allow a gentle smile on our lips. This is the smile of wisdom, understanding. kindness and care. See if we can feel that smile in the entirety of our body. A comfortable, fuzzy, warm, relaxed blob which is smiling because of understanding and care. This smile represents and expresses acceptance, caring, peacefulness, harmony. And allowing this attitude, this smile, to become more and more established and to become internal. So that it affects our mental world, our mind, our thoughts, our emotions. That they smile as well. That they relax deeply as well. Allowing this inner smile to establish peace and stillness. Establish it and to maintain it. And allowing everything to just pass by. And not steal the happiness and the joy of that inner smile. Breathing in with an inner smile and breathing out with that inner smile. Breathing in and out with relaxation, with joy, in stillness and peace. And just for a minute or two, let's see if we can surrender completely. Let go into the process of meditation. Not do anything at all. Just watch. Just know. With an inner smile. And then as we approach the end of the meditation and gently turn around, let's take stock and understand how the body and the mind feels. What has shifted? How it has shifted? Why it has shifted? And in which direction it has shifted, to more peace, to more agitation, to more relaxation, or to more tension. Maybe, a few things at different times. This is how we train, this is how we learn. Understanding how peaceful the mind has become, how settled the heart is, and by what's going on in our bodies, if they're relaxed, if they're at ease, or not. Please, as you are listening to the bell, still keep your eyes closed and allow the sound to take you out from meditation. And now, as we slowly move back into the flow, let's see if we can protect some of that settledness, some of that stillness, some of that peace, and bring it back into the world, bring it back into the activities that we're asked to do, that we need to do. is there any questions, comments, or experiences that people wish to share? Sometimes meditation can, bring some of those energies up. So, especially when we move through our bodies, it's important that we are kind and that we are wise. So, if some of the instructions don't resonate, don't make sense, then we can move to another part of the body. Or we can focus and settle on something which gives us some stability, gives us some grounding. Okay, thank you very much for coming along. There's another class next week if you wish to come along. Be safe. Bye-bye.